But it is time to hit social media for our hashtag segment. For that, we'd like to welcome in Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and we have Fast Market contributor Jenny Horn with us as well. Jenny, to talk one that you were just saying is your favorite company, I'm just playing, with Nvidia. This is one that's been an incredible one for retail traders as it ran up to almost $300 when you saw it in 2017, maybe 2018,
right.
And then you saw the crash, and now it's kind of on its way back up. So I want to see what social media has to say about Nvidia.
It is, and it's been on a pretty good pace the last 3 months. If Kevin Hinks were here, he'd be saying something along the lines of he doesn't use the video games, but he bought the video games for his kids, which have, of course, the graphics processors in them. And actually, analysts are really upbeat on this company after CES last week. They said that their ray tracing technology, their GeForce gaming cards, their autonomous vehicles, all this good stuff going into 2020 looks really positive. So, Landon, what are you seeing with the outlook for Nvidia going forward?
So with Nvidia, we've actually been long on this one for quite a while, since around 167 or so. We put out a couple of big reports on it, both on last mile delivery and the trade wars. Both of them very bullish on Nvidia. The data has been quite strong for quite a while. And when we look at this particular quarter that's about to end, it ends on January 26th, so we're not far from that. We're seeing that this particular quarter is on pace to really do well year over year. We're looking at plus 13% purchase intent year over year, 17% quarter over quarter. So we believe that this quarter is shaping up to be very strong. And again, a lot of that is powered, Jenny, just like you're talking about, by that GeForce processor. That GeForce RTX is the newest, latest, and greatest. It's getting a lot of great reviews. They are, between AMD's Radeon and GeForce, Nvidia's GeForce, that's basically the entire market. So it's just those two. Both companies are doing really well. Nvidia is obviously doing very well, coming up on all-time high, yearly highs, and trying to get back to that 280 level, Alex, that you were talking about. But we're seeing a lot of strength in both the company as a whole and the primary product, which is the GeForce card.
No, and Landon, I think the one thing that often gets associated with Nvidia and that run-up that you saw from 2017 into 2018, then of course followed by that subsequent crash, was really the Bitcoin story. And this company was tied so closely with Bitcoin mining. So now to see it kind of come back, and we know Bitcoin's kind of stabilized and made a little bit of a comeback from those troughs that we saw down around 3,000. But it isn't, as feverish of a activity in Bitcoin now. This might lead to a little bit more of a sustainable move potentially in Nvidia. And of course, your data, of course, showing strong numbers and a lot of really strong data around this GeForce in particular, which you mentioned is kind of a two-horse race with them and AMD.
Right, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say the word stabilize with Bitcoin in the same sentence. But relatively speaking, I think you're right. It is sort of, getting into a little bit of a constrained price, but mining is definitely going down. That was a bit of a craze, but one thing that's not going away is gaming, and also not only gaming, but there's a lot of very powerful systems and algorithms that are being powered by these kind of graphics cards, because graphics cards are unique in the data that they can process and the way that they can handle polygons and complex algorithms. So it's not just gaming, and it's definitely not just Bitcoin mining anymore. Now it's also a lot of heavy intensive processing that are being used for things like last mile delivery and other complicated processes. So we love where Nvidia is sitting right now. We think that they're about to close out a very strong quarter, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they report mid-February, so we're looking forward to that for sure.
Well, Landon, I have a quick question for you. I've been watching AMD. I've been watching that whole sector, and we've seen AMD had a huge move to the upside, especially over the last year as they've been taking market share away from Intel. And obviously, AMD are the two big. AMD and Nvidia are the two big players in graphics gaming. Do you see one possibly taking market share of the other, or is one growing at a higher pace?
Right now, we're kind of seeing that both of them are doing really well. I think that the RTX GeForce card is coming off of this last show with a lot of impressive numbers. People are very impressed with it. Overall, I think they're both doing well. Both have very high happiness levels, and 77%, by the way, for Nvidia, which is higher than Apple's. Very, very happy customer base and very strong purchase intent growth.
Yeah, and Landon, you mentioned that there's kind of been room for both of them to grow. Is that because this overall sector, I know this is associated strongly with gaming, is on the growth front here, in the computer gaming sector, maybe making a little bit of a comeback in the last couple, let's say, year or so? Or is it just because, there's more and more technology that needs these devices?
I think it's both. I don't know. I'm not that heavy into the gaming world. I used to be. Asked me 10 years ago, I probably could have answered that. I think gaming is definitely growing, but I think it's the intensive applications, because just like, we talked about cryptocurrency mining, the reason that they used graphics cards is not because there's any imagery or graphics when it comes to cryptocurrency. It's because the calculations were very intense, and those types of graphics cards are better suited to do those calculations than a regular processor that you find in your computer. So once people started figuring out that graphics cards could do a lot more than graphics, the sales for Nvidia and AMD both took off. So that's why Nvidia is doing really well right now.
So I have to say, if you look on social media this morning and you search Nvidia, it's a lot out of my wheelhouse, but you definitely would think gaming is growing, because there's a ton of people talking about the different kind of game processors, and people are very loyal to either AMD or Nvidia, kind of what we're talking about. But a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but there was a ton of noise. So our first tweet says, upgraded to GeForce 441 spot 86, no other changes. Launched Red Dead Redemption 2 PC for a quick game. Say hello to my little friend. Game no longer loads no matter what I do. Again, bravo Rockstar Games. Months after its release, you're still able to make Red Dead Redemption unplayable on my system. So I thought this was funny. This is kind of the opposite of what you're saying, Landon, because this is obviously not a happy tweet. But I was curious if there's any difference in loyalty with a price range, because AMD's processor is a little cheaper than, of course, Nvidia's.
Yeah, I think that people do have a little bit of brand loyalty when it comes to these, and usually they stick with those. And so we don't see a lot of difference between the two when it comes to happiness or brand loyalty. But, just like this guy was talking about, his computer was having problems. So the first thing he thought to do was upgrade his graphics card, because that's often the weak link. But, he's blaming it on the game and his computer overall, not the GeForce card. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think the card itself is usually the first thing that needs to be upgraded when people are trying to get a better game to play. And of course, that's top line for Nvidia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, once I searched GeForce, it was a whole realm of tweets that I kind of couldn't understand. So that was my favorite one. But our next tweet says, Nvidia not buying this stock, not buying AMD or Apple or Shopify. Oxygen is getting tough to find at the top for many of these and many names. So again, we're talking very, I didn't mean to find such negative tweets today, but we're talking very positively about Nvidia. And this is obviously taking the more opposite outlook.
No, and Landon, building on this, I think this is really the question. You talked about, issuing these bullish calls down at 160, which, great call, by the way, obviously looking at where it's at now. And really there was a lot of negativity around this space, and Nvidia in particular, after that fall, and a lot of people kind of scared to step in. So really kudos to you guys for, making that call and actually making that trade. But when you're looking at it now, it's a different story. You're talking about a stock that's creeping back towards those all-time highs. When we do still have those memories of the subsequent fall from the last time it was at these levels, where do you guys sit now? Are you still, comfortable in this position, or is this one where you're starting to, ease your way out of it and maybe still looking for a little bit more upside?
Actually, we're very comfortable in this position. Obviously, we're very happy with the gains that we've made so far, but with the current quarter on pace for plus 17% quarter over quarter, 13% year over year on purchase intent, we're very bullish. Last quarter, purchase intent was only up 3%, and they blew out earnings. So we're very bullish on this one going into the next one. Plus, they've got that whole trade war resolution pending. Like, if that ever happens, that's going to be very big for their bottom line. We're measuring demand only, and we don't have any insight into expenses. But if there ever is a resolution where all of a sudden all of their parts are much cheaper coming from China, that bottom line is going to go up quite a bit. But really, the story for us is that demand is just crushing it. Very happy. And so we're very bullish on Nvidia. Even though we've got a big gain so far, we're holding our position.
So, okay, we've talked a lot about the gaming sector, but I'm curious about the autonomous vehicle space, because we've seen Tesla on this run up as of lately. That's so wild. So what are you seeing with autonomous vehicles specifically in Nvidia?
That's a great point. So that's the kind of calculation that does a lot better with a graphics card. So as that ramps up, and maybe say 5 years from now, every Uber is automated self-driving, they're all going to have these types of cards in them. And so that's why the LikeFolio is long-term bullish, because there's so many opportunities for not just gaming, but all these complicated things like automated driving. Great point, Jenny. That can really help the top line for Nvidia. It's going to drive the demand, not just from the consumer, but from business to business aspects.
All right, Landon, we love the call. We love the trade that you made at 160, but we got to leave it there. We're out of town here. We'll probably touch base with you guys again around earnings. Looks like it's scheduled or estimated to be February 13th after market, so maybe we'll touch base on that day. But until then, we'll see what happens with Nvidia, and thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
All righty, thanks to you as well, Jenny.